anybody aware of the shelf change over there? Everything's organized into proper piles, everything's organized neatly. This is not done in a scope of 2 seconds. Today's a bit of a special day. I'm reorganizing the shelf. So thereby I'm tearing the entire thing apart and rebuilding this entire thing. Gonna separate everything into classics, into history, into self-help and psychology, and into philosophy. This took the entire morning. Alright, today's episode, or today's topic, was brought to you by a YouTube comment that I received, I think 2 videos ago. Someone asked me, how exactly do you read books when you struggle to be entertained by certain classical literature or by certain books that just tend to bore the hell out of you? First step to address this problem, first everything. If a book is boring to you, why are you even reading it? If a book is boring to you, why do you even bother? For example, I bought a copy of, I couldn't even remember. So for example, that book right there, I didn't even remember its name. So thereby, I read about 20, 30 pages of it and just set it aside because it just bored the hell out of me. First step to choosing books, first step to doing anything, you have to conform to your own desires. You have to find out what it is that you truly want to read, not just conform to some good read recommendations. And don't come to me for recommendations. Robin recommended a list of books. There's a list. But that doesn't mean all the books on the list are going to resonate with you. Borrow the book from the library. Read this first 70 pages. If it doesn't click, well, it doesn't click. Second step. I know you're concerned. You're concerned that technology is distracting you. Technology is just throwing you into the air. So it's very easy to confuse not liking a book with the sensation of not wanting to focus. If you like a book, it's very easy nowadays to like a book and not have to focus to tackle the books, which is the main concern that some people have. They think they're gonna love the book if they actually spend the time to read it, but they just don't spend the time to read it. So thereby, to counteract that strategy, here is how I do it. You basically have to realize the fact that some books out there are tougher than most to read. They require more focus, they require more stamina, so to speak. They require longer stretches of contemplation and focus. So thereby, here is how I tackle the 2 books that I'm currently reading right now. The one book is David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. It's a monster of a book. And the second book, which I really, really, really love, is Marcel Proust's Swann's Way, translated by Lydia Davis. So therefore, the way that I tackle these 2 books is that Infinite Jest is reserved for my morning routine. So in my morning routine, I have about 40 to 60 minutes of reading, and that's after taking a shower, and that's after 10 minutes of meditation. So after those 2 routines, I usually have a lot of sort of mental energy, mental focus to tackle some big thing like this. So in the first 45 to an hour of the day, I can only get across 12 pages of this thing. It just tells you how tough this thing is. And once that's done, I set the book away for the rest of the day. And I could effectively finish this entire thing in 3 months if I read 10 pages a day. Whereas for Marcel Proust, this thing is reserved for bedtime reading and also for casual reading. For example, I'm just having a cup of coffee, having a croissant for lunch, just sitting on my bed, taking out 20 minutes here and there. This is pretty good. It is tough and it is hard to get into, but it's not that tough, so you can actually get into it at a cafe. You can actually get into it sitting in your room. You can actually get into it before bed when your brain is sort of muddled up. And the final note here is that it's all about a habit, because in your brain you're thinking about reading 20 books this year, you're thinking about reading 100 books this year. Well, that's not how you want to tackle these sort of things. You have to remember that you can only effectively read 1 book at once, or in my case, 2 books at once. And even though when I'm talking about reading 2 books at once, I can only read 1 page at a time, read 1 word at a time. So at the back of your mind thinking I have to read 100 books, that's not a very good way to go about it. I think that's not the reason why you should be reading. The reason why I read is to get that pleasure, that shot of pleasure every single day, so I can return back to it, love it, do it again, tomorrow, Infinite Jest, Marcel Proust. So at the end of 2 months, I would have finished a very tough book and would have finished 3 or 4 of these easier books to read. So I don't think you should read for the wrong reasons. That's why first step, you have to find a book that matters. And also, hope you guys love the new bookshelf arrangement thingy. I'm moving out of here pretty soon, so that's basically just me trying to put together something that I'm not probably going to use in the future. Alright, that's another episode down. I'll see you tomorrow for some more crazy stuff.